The graduation address this evening gives us an opportunity to hear from a distinguished member of our alumni community, and I am pleased to announce the address will be delivered by Mr. Greg McMahon, who is the Executive Principal of Doveton College, a position he's held for the past 3 years. Many of you will know that Doveton College is a unique environment encompassing a pre-birth to adult learning environment, including baby college, high quality, long day, early learning, playgroups, primary school, secondary school, and adult learning. Prior to this significant appointment, Greg has been in an educational, student-focused career of some 35 years. He has worked throughout Victoria, both metropolitan and country, and has been a teacher, an assistant principal, a principal, an executive principal, and now such a significant appointment as the executive principal of Doveton College. I have much pleasure on behalf of Monash University in inviting Mr. Greg McMahon to now deliver his graduation address.
Acting Deputy Chancellor, the Honourable Peter Young, Vice President and Deputy Vice Chancellor, Enterprise Ken Sloan, Dean of the Faculty of Education, Professor John Loncran, members of the faculty, distinguished guests, parents and family members, graduates. It is a great honour and very humbling for me to deliver this graduation address. When I told my 150 staff that I was providing this address, they had one bit of advice, and that was, I was last on the list, you better be good. 37 years ago, I left Monash University, the farm as it was then called, to pursue a life of a teacher. It was a different world then. Monash University was in the outer suburbs of Clayton, the one and only campus of Monash University. They were different days, but so rewarding. Many of my colleagues at the time sought a life in corporate or government work, having undertaken a similar course of study in economics and geography. I'm sure if you talk to them today, they will have some, if not many, positive stories about their pathway travelled. My narrative is a pathway of privilege, a privilege of teaching so many young people and learning from them and their families, working with staff and diverse communities who desire to provide the highest quality outcomes for these young people through the door of education. I come from a family of teachers. My dad was a principal, my mum a teacher, my 2 brothers are principals, and we're all married to teachers. Gets better. My second sister is an assistant principal. My other sister let down the side. She became a paediatrician. All but one of us attended Monash University. Alas, we can't have everything. 37 years later, I can tell you that the opportunities afforded to me by the decision to study at Monash, to become an educator, the friendships it's led to, the institutions it's allowed me to shape, but most importantly, the privilege it's provided in shaping the lives of so many young people has been something I value so highly. And yet, each of the approximate 20,000 students I've had the direct or indirect responsibility for over these years have helped shape me and my learning. For me as a teacher and a principal, you never stop learning, nor be surprised at what comes out of the mouths of babes, or for those who aren't quite as young. The moral and practical purpose of taking young people and shaping their learning for 6 hours a day, 200 days of the year, is incalculable in its importance. As a teacher, you will see, shape and lead these young people in front of you for more hours each weekday than their parents. It is something that I've never taken for granted, nor shied away from. The implications of this responsibility is significant and life-changing for those you teach. It is this responsibility I talk to my staff about regularly, and it's the criteria I use to judge their performance. And I make it personal. Will you be the teacher that I'm happy for my 2 daughters to have as their teacher? I recently visited Singapore as a fellow of the Commonwealth Bank Schools Plus program. During this time, I worked with 10 associates from the Australian Schools Plus CBA Fellowship. They are amazing educators. They are reshaping systems, schools and communities right around Australia. In Singapore, we visited various institutions and schools and were enlightened at how education excellence is espoused. At each of these locations, we visited and heard the same mantra. We were told Singapore only has one resource, and that's their people, and therefore the quality of education is the driver of economic prosperity. Compare that to what we have in Victoria and Australia, where we argue over the value of teachers and what resources should be in education. If the most important resource a country has is its people, and the most important future resource is the quality of the young people, then the role you are about to take on, or are taking on, is imperative to the future of Australia. We need to have the highest quality people as educators. Never underestimate the worth of your pursuit. One of the greatest challenges for you as a teacher, and we as a community of educators, is to ensure that we will value your work. It is not an easy 30-second headline or a grab on some talkback radio station about teaching, nor it is something that can be easily measured or simply given a numerical value. Always keep in mind that the most challenging of days, your work is shaping the understanding of that moment, the day and possibly a future. Your work is incalculable in its importance. The teacher is more important than the home environment, the school, certainly the principal, or peers. Education, and teaching specifically, is about providing a communion of opportunities and possibilities for our young. It is fundamentally a profession underpinned by a growth mindset. It is about breaking down the barriers in our society by developing an environment of aspirations, accessing opportunities for some who may have few other options. My challenge for you, therefore, is to be that teacher that makes the difference. Other professions speak of their recompense. As an educator, the value and trust you place and the parents place in you can never be underestimated or calculated. But it is real and often returned in spades and in the funniest of ways. I live in the Bayside area. My daughter is finishing Year 12 with her English exam on Wednesday. When she goes shopping with me in Chelsea or Mordialloc, it's like a time walk. Ex-students and their parents come up to talk and discuss their adventures and pathways. One's here tonight. And sometimes it is confronting when a 40-plus-year-old woman in Woolworth attire runs at you when you're buying chicken and at the deli and says, "Hey, do you remember me?" Your memory bank goes into overtime and you try to find context. Is she accusing me of shoplifting a chicken, or did I teach her? If so, where and when? But I know the most important thing is she wants to talk to me, and my daughter gives me the eye roll. But in the memory bank, there is an inkling of who she is, a first name. In fact, 20 minutes later, she's told me about how I made her stay at school, finish her then HSC, when her family life was in disarray, how it led to a traineeship and future study, and now she's in the management at Woolworths, and how now her 2 sons are finishing university because the value I made her place on education. And I only wanted chicken. Or was it the time when I ran into my ex-Year 12 captain from 25 years earlier, and when I told her I'd shifted from Parkdale to take over Doveton, and told her about the issues of such a disadvantaged community, where students did not engage in sport or performance or activities after school. Only 7% of students were partaking anything after the hours of school. Compare this to the taxi drivers that most of your parents were, and from this relationship with her firm now sponsors the programs for after school and playgroups at Doveton and other places, of which our place, Doveton, is one of them. Or is it the impact you have on holding a sliver of trust in a young person who's been removed from their parents and family through no fault of their own, and for the umpteenth time is shifted to another residential arrangement by external agencies? As a teacher, you will deal with such situations. The news devastates this young girl, and she runs. She runs down a busy road. There is an ache in her voice. She's seen it all before. And I try and talk her back to school, talk her against her crossing the busy intersection, until she says with some respect, "Mr. McMahon, will you help me cross the road?" And when we cross the road, she smiles and says, "Now you can go away." She has a life of distrust, and it is only over time and perseverance that she will accompany back to the school and then into the awaiting car which takes her to a new setting. Yet each day she comes to school because it is her consistent. She smiles and engages, yet she and others have been thrown some of the toughest outcomes of all, being separated from their parents. And yet while the impact on the individuals you teach and support is incalculable, you may also have the opportunity to lead faculties, departments, schools, and even systems. Many of you will be great teachers. Some will have the vision for change and the character and demeanour for leadership. Some will do both. Whatever you have, make time to develop your craft and find that mentor and critical friend you can explicitly trust to give you an honest feedback and advice. I still talk weekly with a number of fellow graduates from 1982 who are in leadership, who and I can bounce ideas off and ask for advice. Their advice and critical friendship is invaluable as we share an understanding of the principal's load, and that can be quite isolating and overwhelming, and where the buck always stops with you. As you undertake the journey of the educator, you will see the characteristics of those who excel. Be one of them. Be the Eddie Wu who inspires those with his approach to maths, or my fellow Monash graduate and now principal, Pit Sabinian, out at McKinnon Secondary College, a high-performing school in our southern suburbs, a superb communicator and developer of relationships, or my supervisor when I was training and now Monash lecturer, Anita Forsyth, who inspired me to love economics, or the 11 other fellows from the Schools Plus CBA teaching fellows who shaped the lives of so many students from around Australia. All these educators have a lot of things in common. They have a deep moral purpose. They do and want to make a difference. They are fantastic communicators. They have a real understanding of young people they work with and their strengths. They are great listeners. Great teachers listen, plan and act. If speaking is silver, then listening is gold. They have a passion for and in educating those in their subject, with their students, for their school and for education. They build and develop caring relationships. Remember, you will see those students 6 hours a day, nearly 200 days a year, more time than most parents see them. You have to have a great work ethic across a number of levels for both the individual, the group, the class, the year level, the school and the community. You have to be multi-skilled and multifaceted. Not only are you an educator, but you will have to have great social, emotional skills and understanding. You have to be a great community builder because so many schools are the centre of our communities. You have to have high expectations and aspirations for your students. Never dumb it down. You have to have great balance and vision. You have to balance the practicalities with the vision. They pursue what's next, but are experts in the now. My time as a teacher has allowed me to experience school settings in the green leafy suburbs of Camberwell, the remoteness of Mildura, with the children of boat people in Noble Park, the students with the beachside demeanour of the Bayside area, and then finally the disadvantage of Doveton. Each of these settings has taught me so much, and I've been lucky to meet so many and experience plenty. However, it's the narrative of Doveton and the place of disadvantages like them where I believe I have and are making the most important contribution. We still operate in an education system that parallels one I was educated in. The question is why? Why in the 21st century are schools open from 8 to 4 and fenced in to keep the community out? Why are $40+ million investments and paid for by the taxpayer locked away for more hours than they're open? Why does formal learning begin at 5 when most of the language development of children is in those initial years? At Doveton College, we have challenged the existing perception of education. Doveton is the story of evidence-based programs and the hope, passion and drive of Julius Coleman, a philanthropic person who has determined to make a difference to student outcomes in highly disadvantaged areas. In this time of challenging Australia's migration policy, Julius is a product of one of our previous migration programs. A post-war refugee who spoke no English when he arrived from Poland in 1950. Landing in Elwood, he attended public schools while learning English, found his way to Melbourne University and finally set up a very successful law firm in the northern suburbs of Melbourne. He developed for his clients a commercial property focus. When the property trust was finally floated, Julius became a very wealthy and successful man. At no stage did he forget his initial life start. Julius has a number of passions: his family, unfortunately the Essendon Football Club, and he loves playing poker. Through a chance meeting while playing poker in Las Vegas, Julius visited the Andre Agassi School and saw their determination to bring on board a new way of providing education in areas of disadvantage, with parent involvement central to this success. Upon his return to Melbourne, and having seen firsthand the success of the Agassi School, Julius approached the government of John Brumby with offer of financial resources. Doveton was part of regeneration programs at that stage. Julius became a driving partner. Doveton College is unique in the Australian education context. The college is the first of our place models, now with 10 around the state. It has pre-birth, early learning, primary and junior secondary. These are wrapped around by a service framework with adult learning, community and volunteer programs, medical and allied health services, men's programs and outreach provisions. It is a learning precinct entwined into a community hub. The Our Place model now includes Doveton and sites throughout Victoria. And the model is challenging results by its outcomes. These communities have significant vulnerability. At Doveton, 42% of all children begin school with at least one vulnerability, and 22% have more than two. What we know from the evidence is that we are making significant inroads into the area. The early learning setting has been twice assessed as exceeding an outstanding centre of excellence, with only 11 others across Australia of 11,000 who have reached similar outcomes. In 2017, students who had undertaken 2 years of early learning were 20% better off by the time they were in grade 3. Engagement in the community has been rapid. There has been an uptake of adult learning. 200 mums learn each year. After-school programs, 75% of students now participate. Playgroups are 150% oversubscribed. There are 70 volunteers in programs in the school each day. Men's programs have taken off and the families are accessing medical services. The community will access the model given relationships are built and sustained by simplifying the complexity and minimising the barriers. And our attendance now exceeds state averages. I'm inspired every day with the positive nature of the Doveton community, a community that was repeatedly told they were residual, yet they are now trust the very institution that very few found success in, education. They see it as their college, but I'm inspired by more. I'm inspired when I see our young Koori students run up the road on a Tuesday and Thursday morning at 6:30 in the morning to attend basketball training at the school, before having a shower and breakfast at the Indigenous gathering place. Their program has overcome the problem of lateness and absenteeism, which was chronic 3 years ago. I'm inspired by a young 22-year-old refugee from Sudan who came to Australia without family and then started university. I've employed him as an education support worker to support his costs. He has run the gauntlet of marauding thugs in his homeland and now runs a soccer and basketball tournaments each holidays for young adolescents. 600 now participate. And it is some of the other staff members who have made Australia home. Some have left their homelands, having lived with daily violence, who now care and educate our most important resources, our children. But most of all, I'm inspired by those young people who live out of home, removed by the system, and continue to arrive at Doveton each day because they know what awaits. No one wants to hear these stories. They're not sexy or saucy or scandalising, but they are stories of success and ones that you as a teacher will confront, manage and help shape. Teaching will provide you, as it has me, with the opportunities to help shape these narratives by valuing the importance of relationships, because all learning is underpinned by great relationships. My staff, when I told them I was coming here, demanded I end the speech with their wisdom, their collective wisdom. So here we go. Every student needs a champion, someone that they can look to, and the more vulnerable, the greater the need. However, even the most gifted and talented can use that support, so be a champion to someone. Every teacher needs a critical friend. You are surrounded by hundreds of people every day with multiple voices and opinions. Who will be your trusted colleague? Schools are built on three foundations, and they are relationships, relationships, and relationships. Relationships with students, with staff, and the wider community. Relationships have to be developed. Most of the other ingredients of teaching can be learnt. Teaching puts you on the stage every day, and some days it can be a slog. The students can't be your roller coaster, so fake it till you make it. Be kind to yourself. It is a demanding job, so know when to pull back and switch off the school thinking light. Assume everyone in the classroom has something to contribute and knows something you don't. Teachers make more minute-by-minute decisions than most professions. It is never boring, but you will sometimes wish that you will work in a less stressful job. That thinking will soon pass. Teaching is like golf. One good shot brings you back for another round. In teaching, it's the light bulb moment when it just clicks for that young person in front of you. Every day you will be amused, delighted, frustrated, and bemused by the classroom show in front of you. All students are characters, so enjoy the show. And as a teacher, you will come across so many different students. Each has their own story, and it is the quality teacher that gets to listen, understand, and help shape the story of that young person. I hope your experience provides you with a lifetime of memories as it has for me. William Yeats spoke of education as not filling the pail, but lighting the fire. I hope your journey in education lights the fire of those most important resources, our young people. Good luck.
Thank you, Greg. Well, indeed, that was a very inspiring, a very meaningful graduation address. I noticed how completely silent the whole hall was. All the students hung on your words, because clearly you speak from experience, 35 years in differing schools, and what came out to me was the total respect that you have for children, for students, and how to improve their education. And yes, Doveton College must be a remarkable venue, partly funded by a remarkable retired legal gentleman in Julius Coleman, but it wouldn't work without you and like staff and the time, the energy, the respect, the commitment that you must give to a very, very difficult education environment. I can't imagine it's easy, and I can imagine you put in enormous time. And if the graduates of today have that level of understanding or commitment, one can only think Victoria will be a wonderful place in years ahead, and our children will benefit. So thank you for that address.